Hello again. We welcome you to the Homeward Bound Covenant series. I'm Lloyd Willard.
I'm Roxy Quam.
And I'm John Taplin.
This is the fourth time we come together to examine the life of Abram. In part 3, a monumental event occurred between Yahuwah and Abram, the covenant. This event is so important that we will start this chapter by reviewing the pivotal events that led to the making of that covenant. Then we will proceed to see the preparation of the heir to whom the covenant baton would be passed. We will join this journey in Genesis 13:14. Watch closely for the commitments being made to Abram by our Creator, Yahuwah.
Starting in Genesis 13:14. And Yahuwah said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now your eyes, and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward, for all the land which you see, to you I will give it, and to your seed forever.
At this time, Abram had also been told that he would be given land for his seed, meaning the generations which would follow, and that those generations would have the land to live on forever.
An important thing to catch here is probably obvious to some, but in case you didn't catch the implication, if Abram's seed would have the land forever, it would also mean that the people who would come through him would also have to continue forever as well.
Good catch, John. Go ahead and read verses 16 and 17.
And I will make your seed as dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then may your seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the width of it, for unto you will I give it.
The generations to follow Abram would not only continue perpetually, but they would be uncountable. And Abram was to get the land that would come with the promise.
In Genesis 13:18, we are shown his attitude toward what has occurred.
And Abram moved his tent, and came and dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built there an altar unto Yahuwah.
And in the beginning of Genesis chapter 15, there is another encounter. Yahuwah tells Abram again that the future still holds what was previously promised. Let's look.
After these things, the word of Yahuwah came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram. I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. And Abram said, O sovereign Yahuwah, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? And he that shall be possessor of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold, to me you have given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of Yahuwah came unto him, saying, This man shall not be your heir, but he that shall come forth of your own bowels shall be your heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and number the stars, if you are able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall your seed be. And he believed in Yahuwah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness.
Notice verse 6. He believed Yahuwah, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Yet the conversation is just partially done.
Yes. Understanding that he believed Yahuwah, look what he asked next.
And he, Yahuwah, said unto him, I am Yahuwah that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you this land to inherit it. And he, at this time Abram, said, O sovereign Yahuwah, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?
The question is, how will I know that I will inherit the land? And the answer was?
The answer was Genesis 15:9. And he said, Yahuwah said unto him, Abram, Take me a heifer 3 years old, and a she-goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took him all these, and divided them in the middle, and laid each half over against the other. But the birds divided he not.
If our study partners missed this in the previous video, it's important to point out that Abram believed, but he asked a bold question. We will never know for sure what was in Abram's mind, but he was asking for some kind of a sign or assurance.
And what he received were instructions about how to prepare for a covenant between him and his seed and Yahuwah. And this is why we have called it a climax of the relationship. This event, which was about to occur, was so important that it laid the groundwork for everything that would happen for the rest of human history. And it is set up in an extremely peculiar way.
I'll read, starting at verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know for certain that your seed shall be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. But you shall go to your fathers in peace.
Here again we see that what is being foretold isn't just about Abram. In fact, he will rest with his fathers as the future unfolds.
Here it comes.
You're right. Here it comes. Right here in Genesis 15, starting with 17. The future would be set irreversibly. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a flaming torch that passed between the pieces. In that day Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto your seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
If you recall the Abraham 3 video, you will remember that Abram's wife Sarai apparently was convinced that she could never have a child, so they decided to raise a family through Hagar, Sarai's maidservant. And it worked. A child was born whom Yahuwah told Hagar to name Ishmael. Abram was 86 years of age when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. That's in Genesis 16, verse 15.
So that takes care of that, right? Abram now has a son, and the covenant is on its way to the next generation.
Not so fast, John.
That's right, not so fast. In fact, the 17th chapter of Genesis opens with the following words. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me, and be you perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you will multiply you exceedingly.
Are you going to glean this for us, John?
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Let's pull out 3 points. I'll start with one which is easier to see than the others. First, did you see that Hagar bore Ishmael by Abram when he was 86? And that the next time Yahuwah apparently appeared to Abram was when he was 99. It was 14 years from the time Sarai made her recommendation about using an alternative mom until Yahuwah would again approach Abram. 14 years. A second point is that when Yahuwah approached Abram, he told him, I am El Shaddai. El, which is the root of Elohim, means approximately strong authority. While your study tools may not tell you this, the word Shaddai has interesting roots. The translations frequently render El Shaddai the Almighty. However, the word may really reflect a more personal meaning. The root word shad, Strong's number 7699, means breasts. The breasts are the means of nourishment and life to a child. The nursing time is also a time of nurturing. The ending of the word die is a word which means approximately enough or sufficiency. Though I would use the qualifier may because there's a controversy around the meaning of El Shaddai, as a compound word, the introduction of Yahuwah as El Shaddai can be reasonably understood to mean strong authority, totally sufficient, nurturing provider.
Wow. And your third point?
Notice that he said he would make a covenant with Abram. He had already made the covenant. The word which was translated make here is Nathan, which literally means give or gift. Some of the translators didn't catch this. Yahuwah was saying, I will give my covenant to you.
So after 14 years, Yahuwah says to Abram, I am the strong, nurturing provider, and I will give my covenant to you. Did he mean now I will give my covenant?
Let's reread verse 2.
And I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly.
Uh-oh. It appears that Abram got off course if it is being said that the multiplication that Yahuwah intended wasn't to have started yet.
Watch Abram's response. And Abram fell on his face.
And Yahuwah's response, verse 3.5, and Elohim talked with him, saying, I just need to pause right here. It will be evident in a few moments that Abram missed the original intention of Yahuwah, and shortly we will see that toward Abram there will be shown no animosity or apparent rebuke.
We have seen in the flood event at the time of Noah that our Creator, Yahuwah, can be severe and resolved in discipline. Yet here we see his reaction to Abram is to talk to him.
What's coming is really amazing. May I read on?
Please.
Sure.
Yahuwah's talking and says in verse 4, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For the father of a multitude of nations have I made you.
Yahuwah changed his name?
He changed his name. I'll read on, starting with verse 6. And I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you throughout their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be an Elohim to you, and to your seed after you.
Lloyd, do you see anything added here to what has already been told to Abram?
Beyond the name change, I don't see anything yet. But if we keep reading, that will change.
Go ahead.
Verse 8, And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. And Elohim said unto Abram, And as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant that you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Verse 11, And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and you.
Could we pause here? It is important to remember that this word token, which is the Hebrew word oth, means a sign. It is an observable sign, though normally concealed. Let's read on.
Go ahead.
Verse 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male, throughout your generations. He that is born in the house, or bought with money of any foreigner that is not of your seed, he that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant? Let's continue, verse 14. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Well, that sure shakes the status quo, doesn't it?
It sure does. He is marking a covenant people, where the seed of life of covenant peoples would pass from. And if they choose not to participate, they were to be cut off from the people.
Well, much can be said about this subject and will be said going forward as we progress through history. But let's make sure not to forget Sarai before we end this video segment.
You want to find out what Yahuwah has to say about Sarai, do you?
You bet.
I do too.
Well, let's read verse 15. And Elohim said unto Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name.
Another name change.
Yeah. And I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be of her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear?
Let's pause here. A little review might be in order before we proceed to the next two verses. 14 years earlier, Sarai and Abram decided to have a stepson. Her maidservant had the child, and his name was Ishmael. Yahuwah comes to him and restates that he will give Abram children, and they will multiply and be given a huge amount of territory to live on. And they are given the mark of circumcision, which was mandatory. Abram and Sarai are renamed Abraham and Sarah, respectively. And now Abraham is told that the child would be born to a 90-year-old mom and a 100-year-old dad. And Abraham falls on his face laughing at how strange that sounded.
Yes, but we have to remember that he had already been credited with believing. So it seems that this was laughter of the emotion of joy and amazement.
I agree. But isn't that a picture? I wish we could have been there to watch.
Shall we continue, or do you two need to enjoy the moment a little longer?
Go on. I'm through.
Verse 18. And Abraham said unto Elohim, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And Elohim said, No. But Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he procreate, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and Elohim went up from Abraham.
Much was said here, but let's focus on the covenant portion.
Remember Genesis 15:18. In that day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto your seed have I given the land. Now let's look at 17:19 and 17:21. And Elohim said, No, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And now verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time in the next year.
Well, we'll ask you a couple of questions. First, who received the covenant in Genesis 15:18?
Abraham. I mean Abram.
Right? And who received the covenant after Abram?
The child which would be born to Sarah, Isaac.
Not Ishmael?
No, definitely Isaac.
Yep.
What we have now seen is the plan for the passing of the covenant baton to a generation which had not yet begun.
And one can't help but notice that there wasn't any option but the one Yahuwah directed. Did you notice that in verse, right after starting a second time, that the covenant was with Isaac in verse 22? Says he left off talking with him, and Elohim went up from Abraham. All that needed to be said was said. It wouldn't be Ishmael, even though Abraham appealed for blessing of him. Ishmael would be greatly multiplied, but Isaac would receive the generational covenant relationship.
Did you also notice that the elements of the covenant were restated here? Yahuwah didn't need to say that Isaac should be circumcised, or that Isaac would inherit the land. It had all been said before. We now know that Isaac, or in Hebrew Yitzhak, would be the next generation. This was planned even before his birth.
It should be apparent by now that nothing happens by chance in Yahuwah's workings. He sets the direction and makes it come to be. Sarai couldn't and wouldn't bear children at the age of 90 without providential will. And Yitzhak, or Isaac, alone was providentially selected to be a pivotal generation. Names were chosen and names were changed. We couldn't cover the relevance of these actions at this time, but will in subsequent videos. It was all deliberate and it was all relevant.
In Abraham 5, we will follow the covenant from the unborn Yitzhak, or Isaac, to the next generation. Shalom. Follow this journey. There will be some surprising and some alarming implications. So we hope this study has been inspirational spiritual food to you, and that you will continue with us on this study journey.
At that, peace to you in the name of Yahuwah.
Shalom.
Shalom.